What is it that makes one person stop to help someone in need while another just simply walks by? This week, a New York City police officer was caught on camera in a random act of kindness, and he captured our hearts as well as those of thousands of others around the world.
I went up to him and I was like, buddy, where's your socks, where's your shoes? He's like, it's okay, officer, I never had a pair of shoes. And that to me, it took me back a few.
Call it the Good Samaritan gene. That special quality that made New York police officer Larry DePrimo stop and buy a pair of boots for a barefoot homeless man on a cold night earlier this month.
The true inspiration was my grandfather. And he told me when I was much younger, if you're going to do something, do it 100%.
It's the same virtue that Canadian bus driver Chris Doubledy explained when he visited us in September, which compelled him to help a stranger in need.
I seen the gentleman walking across the street in his bare feet, and you could tell, you know, being 2 days, that he was sore. So I just asked the guy, I said, "Where's your shoes?" And he said, "I don't have any." I said, "Well, if I give you a pair of shoes, will you keep them?" And he said, "Yeah." So I just give him mine.
Just two of many random acts of kindness that perhaps in a different time go unnoticed every day. But with the help of cell phone cameras, we're more aware of these good Samaritans who seem to carry altruism in their DNA.
It's an absolutely humbling experience that I'm able to go through this right now.
So why is it that some people are more prone to generosity? Is altruism an innate quality, or is it something that can be taught? Well, we're going to talk about that with our good friend, a good Samaritan herself, Dr. Jennifer Hartstein, child and adolescent psychologist. Great to have you with us as always,
Thanks
Jen.
for having me. Good morning.
Is this something that's innate in people?
Well, you know, compassion is something that is often innate in people. We are born with a certain level of compassion, which drives us to be more altruistic. And altruistic is the idea of just doing nice things for other people regardless of the return. So I think some people are just more that way because it is how they are, how they were raised, and other people aren't. And that's really why when we see these things, it's so wonderful.
This police officer said that he didn't realize anybody was watching when he was doing this. Does that make this sort of a test of character in a way, do you think?
I do think that this is absolutely part of who we are as people. The idea of altruism is doing it with no regard for who sees. So the fact is, it is in our character. Many people will walk by, and they might be altruistic in other ways, but they might walk by someone like this man on the street and just pay no attention, and he intentionally stopped and did something with no regard for anything other than a thank you.
It's a sweet story. It's stopping a lot of people in their tracks, making them rethink, how do I behave and how can I instill this in my kids? What's your advice?
Well, I do think this is something we can teach our kids. It's about, in some ways, moral values. So if this is something you believe, help others, go out of your way, especially now at the holidays, following the hurricane, whenever there's a tragedy, it's a perfect opportunity to teach your kids how can you help someone else, even in a small way, to make them feel a little better. It does come back to you tenfold.
It's interesting because 60 Minutes did a piece that basically said that infants as young as 3 months old could tell right from wrong. Do you think that's right?
I do think that there is an element of us knowing innately what's right and wrong. We know it by facial expression, we know it by what we see, and so we have to really go with kids. The problem is then the environments mold them even more. So there's the beginning part, and then there's what the environment. So nature and nurture working together
it's the reinforcement of the whole
absolutely
of the values.
Absolutely.
On the nurturing side of the argument, is there a negative enforcing nurture on this? I mean, could somebody be taught not to be benevolent, and what kind of characteristics as a parent could you display that would potentially even inadvertently teach your kid that?
Well, we all are selfish in some way, right? So we all kind of say, oh, that person might not need it, I need it more. So we might hold on to things, we might not be willing to give of our time or give of ourselves. And maybe we're just too busy, so we aren't taking the time to teach the children in our lives how to take the time to help others. So it's important for parents to step back and say, what can I do that's kind? How can I show my children that that's what you need to do? And how can we do it together?
So in all of this publicity, obviously, is an education for kids in itself.
Absolutely. It's so easy to show, now that we use social media in these ways, too easy to show our children what they can do, how they can reach out, how they can be helpful, and not to do it for the fame, which is the trick.
Well,
it's
that's
really
the
to do it
part here, because everybody sees, well, oh, look what happens if I do a nice gesture.
To do it because it's meaningful to you, not because it's meaningful to the world to see what it looks like to do something kind.
Dr. Jennifer Hartstein, kindness abounds.
Kindness all around.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.